Hello, welcome again to another podcast. My name is Jason Lewis, and today I wanted to use some time to talk about my book. I'm the author of Divergent Discovery Navigating Relationships uh, Through Journaling, and you can pick that up on Amazon. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the book today. The book is very unique. It is a journaling experience. It gives you an opportunity to read through the book and write down your thoughts. What is used within the book is called bibliotherapy. If you get a chance, you can Google it, look it up, and you'll understand. It's a type of therapeutic approach where we get to like review our thoughts and just look over different things and different aspects in our life. The book has some dynamic, powerful chapters in it. One of the things you'll find as soon as you pick up the book, even if you look at the chapters and the titles of the chapters, it will pique your interest. And I'm sure you'll want to take a deeper look. There's not many books out there, and I'm calling it a book, but it's primarily a journaling tool. But there's not many books out there that actually have a trigger warning. So, one of the things that happens as you read through this book is you get to process and understand some of the things that I have written. But as you read the book, even if you have not experienced the same things, it's an opportunity for you to like process those things. So, one of the things that I would hope that I would get and others would get from it is a kind of cognitive thinking. So we're reasoning, we're understanding, we're listening to our own thoughts within our head, and we're actually growing from that experience. The journaling aspect tool of it, it actually allows us to look at the high points and the low points of our day within a relationship. And as we do that, we can go back and reflect and see, is this relationship experiencing a type of growth that I want to be in? Are there things that I want to work on? And in some cases, it may be a decision that we want to end the relationship. And that is one of the most helpful aspects of the book, of the journal, is that if you're undecided, if you're on the fence, I believe that if you look at this book, you read it, you take it in, then you'll decide, if you're honest with yourself, whether you want to continue in a relationship. One thing you'll hear about people that talk about books and authors and getting help from others, many times I believe that we expect, or we go to people that may have the experience, or they have something that we want. To be honest about growth, I believe that it takes us, having some introspective viewpoints of ourselves and looking deep within and deciding for ourselves. Um, there comes a time in life where we really see that, going everywhere outside of ourselves is typically not the best thing to do. There are aspects in the book where I talk about, like, if there's certain things that are weighing on you so heavily mentally, I do think that it's a good idea for us to get professional help and support. One of the things that we can look at and ask ourselves, have we been in this cycle or this pattern of going through the same things over and over and over again? And if we have, we know that, people will say that the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same things over and over again and expect different results. So we don't want to be in that cycle of insanity, even if it means for us to have a conscious decision to take a break and do other things. And I'm speaking from experience because I have had a lifetime of making some unhealthy choices around relationships. And I came to the point where I understood, like, hey, I just need to like take a step back, reevaluate everything, and move forward. So one of the ways, I said one of the ways, the primary way that this book, this journal came about is through my own personal experience. And if you've ever been there and you felt like, I've experienced heartbreak, it's hard for me to get through this. It's very challenging. I had to find a way. Nothing that I seem to be doing was really helping me get the breakthrough that I needed. So one of the things I started doing is just when thoughts came to my mind, whether those thoughts were about what I personally experienced or what I've heard other people experience, all I simply did was to jot down a few lines here or there. Sometimes it would be a page or two. And at some point, after months, I had compiled a large amount of information. I said, hey, I'm going to put this together not only for myself to reflect on, but for others to have the same opportunity to look at some of the things. The book, uh, Divergent Discovery Navigating Relationships Through Exploration and Journaling, can be found on Amazon. So on Amazon, you'll see the description, and there's not a lot of details in that description that really gives you the insight, some of the things that I've been discussing. So that is one of the reasons that I wanted to discuss this today. Other things that I do is I actually um, go to groups. I talk to groups of people. I have opportunities where I have book signings, and the book signings are not just book signings to um, have people say, "Hey, you did a great job on the book." The book sign is an opportunity for me to hear other people's thought and actually grow from that. They gain insight from me. I gain insight from them. So that's really what the podcast is about us learning from each other and saying like, hey, this has worked for me or this hasn't worked for me. And I believe that the more that we do this, the more that we'll find ourselves in a place to have better ideals and better thinking patterns. Within my career, I found that journaling was exceptionally useful. There was a time that I was actually counseling an all female teenage group, and I knew that I wasn't able to spend the quality time in groups that I wanted to. And a lot of times, I think some of them wanted to share things and they didn't really want to share them openly. And so, what I did is I gave them all a notepad and I said, hey, every single day, I want you to write something in this notepad. And then at the end, you can ask me a question or you can just tell me whatever you want me to hear. And it was pretty profound. Like I saw a lot of breakthroughs as a result of doing that. And, you know, as a result of me doing that, there were other young individuals that wanted to do the same thing. I didn't even offer them that opportunity. They came and asked for that opportunity because they saw what was happening. And it was a commitment. It was a huge commitment on my behalf to actually read what they were saying every day. And then we go back and talk about it. And I wasn't reading it every day. I think I would read it maybe twice a week. I would read it and I would get caught up. Um, One of the things I think that we'll experience as a result of journaling or looking within ourselves, I believe there will come a time where we will have that breakthrough moment. And when we have it, I've watched it happen within people. I've experienced it. But the emotions can be overwhelming. But when you really know that the change is inevitable and the change is coming, you'll experience. Some people will even break down weeping. And, for males, we don't hear about crying very often. And I say that the demographics of who reads my book, it's mostly females. And I would say the age group is ages 25 to 35. But I didn't write this book to reach only a certain gender or only uh, ethnic backgrounds or anything. I wrote it for everyone. So I hope that everyone would get something about it. So I was saying that, men a lot of times believe, it's not okay to cry. And I'm not saying that any of us are walking around every single day a ball of emotions, but we do go through a vast amount of different emotions and learning to identify those emotions. Most of the time, if we ask a person how they feel, if we really pay attention, oftentimes we won't get a feeling word out of that, especially with men. So being able to identify and feel and understand what is going on. So one of the things I encourage you to is to, if you have friends and family, if you're going through something challenging, that's an opportunity also to really pay attention to what they are saying. We really don't like to take advice. And some of us, in some instances, it is a good idea. We don't want to be out there sharing all our business with everybody. And when we put ourselves out there for that feedback, or we're talking to other people, we can expect that sometimes we're going to hear something that's helpful. And then sometimes we're going to hear things we don't want to hear. And then sometimes we may actually regret because we might want to go back to a relationship, or a relationship could potentially work out, but yet we'll have those individuals looking at us like, you made that decision about that person to go back to them after they treated you like what? So I'm not saying that people can't change, but confidentiality is an important aspect of our growth in many instances. And so is journaling. Within the book, also, there's a unique, almost like survey questionnaire at the end. And I really, really recommend that any couples, even if you're not reading the book, that you go through that survey, that you go through that questionnaire and see what type of personality you have. And if you do that, especially early on within a relationship, you can find out, some pretty important things, and whether you want to bend more to accommodate the relationship, or you might see things that you're like, wow, this just will not work for me. So I encourage you to also get the book for that questionnaire. I have been seeing a lot of people, and in this journey with me doing the book, and oftentimes I will introduce the podcast as raw and unfiltered. That's what I'm really getting from this experience with other people, just conversations that um, I can't believe some of the things that people are going through, and they feel like they're alone when they're going through those things. So this again is just to share, like, you're not alone. Like, this book, when you read it, you're like, wow, I kind of thought that, people weren't really dealing with things on this level. Um, I'm hearing from people that have been in long marriages, long relationships, and for lack of a better word, they seem like they've been miserable most of the time. So it's easy to be a person on the outside looking in, but it's also easy for people to mask, suppress, and stuff their feelings and emotions, and nobody really even understands what they're going through until one day they finally break. So this is also encouragement to say, I think that people are um, sometimes naive in some aspects, is um, not understanding how fragile they can actually be emotionally. If we pile things on over and over again and we don't address them, then eventually it could be overwhelming to the point that we feel like we can't go on, or we get into a depression, or whatever it may be. So the last piece I'm going to talk about is the healing aspect. So throughout life, we travel, and our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions, they all come together to create our personality. And within our personality, we also have our ego, and the ego can get in the way of us making changes. But what will happen, I say it's like a wound or an injury, trauma. A lot of people are going through trauma or they've experienced trauma, and oftentimes people are acting out trauma within their relationships, or they may not even realize that the things they're doing or the things that they're saying is based in that trauma. So you think of it as if like you had this injury and you really didn't heal from this injury, and you're just kind of like piling on, covering it up, and it's really getting infected, and it's a bad place for you to be because you're not taking care of this injury. Well, you sometimes you and I can think that just because I'm going to take care of this injury or this trauma that is going to go away. And oftentimes it does not. It's like pulling back a band-aid from a wound, and you got these layers of things going on. So sometimes the pain is going to get worse before it gets better. I had, and it wasn't primarily due to a relationship, but there were some relationship aspects within something that I was going through, and I was really a lot younger, and I still was naive enough. I told someone that was going on, and I considered this person really wise. I thought, like, if anybody's going to tell me like how to get through this, they're going to tell me. And so I talked to them, and they said, well, I've been through a lot of things in life, and I can tell you this, that if it is as bad as it seems and what you just shared with me, then it's likely not going to get any worse. That you're likely have gone through the worst part, and things can start to get better now. Well, I believe that, and I stood on that. But guess what? Things got a lot worse before they got better. And I'm not saying that to discourage people, but I'm saying that the book is about discovery and recovery. And if you have ever gone through anything challenging in your life, sometimes the recovery aspects and the healing and the work, and that could come on all levels of mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. A lot of times we have to work on all those areas. So again, I encourage you to go out and get the book. And I just wanted to highlight and share a little bit more about the book and encourage you again. My name is Jason Lewis. The book is Divergent Discovery, Navigating Relationships Through Exploration and Journaling. And I hope you get your copy today. Thanks.